dailyextra.com. Everything news.
Like my mother's married to a woman.
You're straight, it doesn't matter. Just play the game, what you love to do, what you get paid for, that's it.
Everything life.
I definitely love guys with beards.
You do.
The ideal of femininity.
I don't think that that's what makes me a woman.
Everything travel.
Here we are, WorldPride in London.
Everything events. Everything gay, every day. dailyextra.com.
Hello and welcome to dailyextra.com's WorldPride Toronto Town Hall. I'm Rob Salerno.
And I'm Phil Villeneuve.
And we're here with some of the organizers of this year's WorldPride, this entire festival. And we're here to ask them questions and to bring them your questions straight here from social media. You can, if you have questions about WorldPride this year, you can send them in to us and we'll pass them along to our panel and we'll get some answers for you. And just a second, we'll tell you how to do that. So just going to introduce our panel here quickly. Over at the far end over here, we have Mychol Skully, who is the manager of the Church-Wellesley Village Business Improvement Area. And then we have TK, who's the Arts and Culture Manager of WorldPride Toronto. Toronto City Councillor Wong Tam. Pride Executive Director Kevin Beaulieu. WorldPride Human Rights Conference Co-Chair Brenda Kosman. And Extra Zone Deep Dish columnist Royln Chambers. All right, so we are actually going to give each of you a minute to introduce yourselves and tell us what makes you excited about WorldPride. And it is going to be just 1 minute. We are timing this, folks. We're trying to keep on a tight schedule here. And if you go over time, we have Frank over there on a stopwatch who will be ringing a bell to let you know that you're over. Frank, do you have that bell?
Yeah, we'll have it by the 1 minute time.
All right, so nobody go over your time.
It's really loud. We're very strict with it too.
We're very, very proud of that bell. So why don't we start with Royln?
Thank you very much. Time is on. My name is Royln Chambers. As was mentioned, I'm a columnist with Extra magazine. I have to take a breath when I say that now. I have to take a breath a lot of times when I say that because I used to be a columnist with Fab magazine, writing the same column, writing about arts, culture, nightlife, parties, what's going on. I've experienced many, many prides. I don't want to say how many because, you know, that will date me, and that's not good for my position right now. But yeah, I've experienced many prides.
Timeless.
Thank you. I've experienced many prides. I've also been a part of many prides. My most enjoyable experience was actually marching the front of the Pride Parade one year as a silent protest to certain countries with poor human rights towards LGBT people, and I represented my own home country of Jamaica, which I love so much, but you know what, guys, step it up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting a whole bunch of people this year from all over the world, partying, shirtless, and getting nasty.
All right.
Oh, perfect timing.
Hi, I'm Brenda Kosman. I'm the director of the Bonham Center for Sexual Diversity Studies at University of Toronto, and I am the co-chair of the WorldPride Human Rights Conference. So needless to say, the thing that I am most excited about for WorldPride is the WorldPride Human Rights Conference. We have an extraordinary lineup of folks coming from all around the world, leading LGBT activists from around the globe. We have about 170 different speakers coming from over 40 countries. We have a range of unbelievable topics from trans-Asia to two-spirited activism in Canada, sodomy law challenges to resistance in Uganda. We have some incredible activists. They may not be household names like some of the entertainment is, but they should be, and I think maybe after they're here, they may be. We have folks like Masha Gaston from Russia, Frank Mugisha from Uganda. The list goes on and on and on. It's incredibly exciting to have an opportunity to bring all these activists together to have a conversation about the state of global human rights.
My name is Kevin Beaulieu. I'm the Executive Director of Pride Toronto, and I have the privilege and pleasure of working with an incredibly gifted and committed group of volunteers and staff who have been working for 5 years to produce this event. I'm thrilled about the parties and the entertainers. TK is going to talk a bit more about some of the headliners. I look forward to that. But, you know, I love the build-up to Pride, the week and a half to 10 days before, and we've really built that out this year through partnerships with many cultural institutions and other LGBT organizations across the city. So I'm looking forward to seeing the whole city, the whole city really become World Pride this year. Organizations and institutions like the AGO and the Ryerson Image Center and Buddies and Bad Times Theater and Luminato and the TIFF and Inside Out, the list goes on. There's going to be so much happening this year that you couldn't possibly do it all as one person, in addition to an enhanced parade and Dyke March and Trans Pride and the stages, again, which TK will talk about, where we've really done a great job, I think, of producing a stellar lineup of entertainers. So I'm looking forward to the human rights as well as to the celebration.
Well said, Kevin. I'm Kristen Wong Tam, and I'm a Toronto City Councillor. The thing that I'm most excited about this year for World Pride is the ability to showcase our city. I think Toronto is one of the best cities in the world, and obviously having an opportunity to invite the world to Toronto and then able to demonstrate that we are a global leader in human rights, that we actually have 140 dynamic neighborhoods, and each and every single one of them will be the part of the canvas as a host city. There's all sorts of reasons for the city to be proud. Since 1973, we've been a leader of the movement. We've actually included sexual orientation as a ground of discrimination, a prohibited ground of discrimination for the LGBT people. And also, in many ways, the City of Toronto has totally stepped up. We are co-sponsoring the opening ceremonies. We are doing everything we can to make sure that the TTC is going to be running. There's going to be a special commemorative pass to commemorate World Pride with the TTC, which is a Toronto Public Transit. We also have the ability to pull together a vast amount of city resources. So this truly will be a City of Toronto event.
I'm TK. I'm an Arts and Culture Manager at Pride Toronto and for World Pride this year. I too am very excited that we're seeing 5 years of work come to fruition, and so many months of really intense work with a lot of amazing volunteer programmers and amazing committees that have been put together specifically for the programming. I'm very proud to say we're putting together one of the most representative and incredible lineups and fabulous lineups that you've ever seen at Pride here, or dare I say at Pride anywhere. It's incredible, starting at the opening ceremonies. We have a full 10 days. We've got the closing ceremonies that'll just blow out all of Yonge Dundas Square. So many great partnerships. We're bringing theater, rock, dance, pop, soul music, trad, country. I mean, you name a genre, and it's being represented at this festival. And I couldn't be more proud to be presenting it with all of these amazing folks that I work with. Thanks.
Ooh. Good one.
My name's Mychol Skully. I'm the General Manager of the Church-Wellesley Village BIA. I guess I'm sort of the new kid on the block. I came on board at the beginning of April and picked up a project in the middle. We are hosting the weekend before Pride, and our focus is a little more low-key, I think, than the sort of things you guys have been working on. But we're really focused on the history of the village, on the source of Pride, and really focusing on the neighborhood itself. As a BIA, our primary responsibility is to the businesses who are our members, and we would like to showcase them. So we are actually hosting a street closure weekend, the weekend before Pride, that will be basically a neighborhood block party, and we're really excited to be able to present that scale of event in the context of the larger World Pride, which we're all very excited about, of course.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, like I said, this town hall isn't just about our panelists. It's about you, our viewers and readers. So if you have questions for our panelists, please send them in. We are live on social media. You can send in your questions on Twitter. @DailyXtra is our account. You can post them on our website on the comments section of the page that you're watching this on right now. You can send them in by. Can you send them in by fax? Do we have a fax number live here? No. That's been disconnected. But you can you can send it in by Twitter or the comments on our website, and we'll be happy to bring them up here. And I'm going to open up the discussion with a question that was sent in on Twitter. This is for our first topic of the evening, which is, what is World Pride? And we have one of our Twitter followers, Alien Aaron, @AlienAaron, sent into Daily Extra. How is this different than previous Prides, especially Pride in Toronto? Maybe TK, you can step up and give the first answer to that, because you just said this is going to be the biggest Pride ever anywhere in the globe. That's a pretty big set of expectations to fill there.
Dare I say it? But, we do actually. We're filling the full 10 days of the festival with shows and performances. Of course, starting with our opening ceremonies. It's the first time we've had Nathan Phillips Square. Thank you very much to the City of Toronto for partnering with us on that. And of course, we'll be presenting Melissa Etheridge. So we're very excited to have a community member of her stature coming to represent at that opening ceremony. Deborah Cox will be coming back. Of course, she was with us in 2009 when we bid on WorldPride. So we're very happy to see that story come full circle. Steve Grand will be joining us. We'll have performances from the MCC Toronto Choir, and there's so many other ceremonial components that you normally don't see at Pride. And of course, we don't normally have opening ceremonies. We just kind of kick it off and we're like, there you go, let's do it. Then there's things happening every single day of the week. I mean, Kevin's right. I mean, it's impossible for one person to actually attend every single thing. But we have organized the shows and the showcases by theme, so I think it's very easy for people to navigate. And as we put our website together, you'll see that there's ways that you can look at it at a glance and kind of plan your week out very nicely. I mean, we'll have over. And this is usually we have 2 or 3, maybe 4 headline performances. And this year we're presenting over 30 headline and headline support performances. So that's one thing. And most of that's happening over the course of that final weekend from the 27th through the 29th.
Oh.
So, and that's my minute, and I'm not even done. Like, there's that much. So.
Well, yeah, let's actually hear from Kevin. I got a question for you, actually. WorldPride is actually, it comes from an organization called InterPride. It's a group of Pride festivals from around the world. Can you tell us a little bit about what InterPride is? What determines WorldPride?
Sure. So, of course, there are Pride celebrations in cities all over the world. They have their local prides, which really are manifested locally and reflect local cultures and customs and traditions and histories. But all of those prides are still part of one global movement in support of celebrating LGBT communities and advancing LGBT human rights. InterPride is the International Association of Pride Organizers. Pride Toronto is a member organization of that group, as are many other organizations. And they, one of the things they do is they award WorldPride to a city. So ours is the 4th ever held in the world, the first time in North America. And InterPride's role in that is to bring everybody together. So WorldPride is the thing that, as I said, there's a global movement on top of those local manifestations of pride. WorldPride is that chance for a global gathering to galvanize the movement, to have a discussion, to celebrate, and to move forward together, never forgetting that we are all in this together, no matter where we are in the world.
Well, that sounds like really fantastic. A little bit heady. Let's talk about what it actually means practically. What does it mean to get picked? Like, how does a city get picked to host WorldPride? What does it mean to get picked? How does InterPride support WorldPride in any way? Is it like buying a Tim Hortons franchise and you set it up, like it comes out of a box and you just do it?
No, that's not InterPride's role, nor should it be. InterPride, what happens is there's a bidding process. So in 2009, before my time with the organization, Toronto bid for WorldPride against Stockholm in St. Petersburg. And based on the strength of the application, the submission, and the strength of the city, the support that the city showed at the time, it was awarded to Toronto. From there, it's really up to the local Pride to do the fundraising, to do the organizing. InterPride acts as the nexus, the communications point between all of the prides, and helps us to get the word out, because we don't always have a lot of resources for an international marketing campaign. So the network that InterPride provides is really a key part of their contribution to the event. They help us connect with other prides who want to join us, who want to come to WorldPride wherever it is in the world.
So one final question about WorldPride, and then or InterPride rather, and then we'll move on to general WorldPride questions. Who is InterPride? Who makes these decisions? Who sits on the board? Is it actually is there global representation? Is it more regional? How does it work?
InterPride actually has a 30-plus year history. I don't know the exact number of years. And it's an organization. Its members are organizations, so it's not individuals. You are a member of InterPride by right of being a representative of a member organization. So I attend InterPride meetings annually. Some of our board members do at Pride Toronto and their counterparts at Pride organizations around the world. There's a lot in North America. It is expanding. EuroPride is actually a member organization of InterPride, and there's a region that there are, I forget the number of regions, it's 36, or it's a lot of regions around the world where there are representatives or there's work being done to bring membership in to expand the organization. So we do have a truly global ongoing dialogue as Pride organizers.
Okay, so we've got another question from social media, and I think maybe Mychol would be the best person to answer this question. This one comes from one of our followers, Christopher Karras, who is also known to some people as the Mississauga student behind a current court challenge, human rights challenge against his high school, his Catholic high school. He wants to know, what are your favorite highlights in the Church-Wellesley area during WorldPride?
The highlights?
Yeah, what are the things you're looking forward to in the neighborhood?
I guess I've attended quite a number of prides in my time. This is going to be a particularly exciting one because I'm representing the BIA for this particular pride. And I would say that one of the most exciting things for me is the way that the village becomes the destination. That we've got people coming in from all over the city to the place that they believe is where it's happening, whatever it is for them, that it's happening in the village. And that's the most exciting thing for me, is to see the village is already an extremely diverse neighborhood. But for the week, the 10 days of Pride, it becomes, the diversity is a whole order of magnitude larger than that. And we've got people coming in from all over the city, all over the province, from across the country, and with WorldPride now, we can certainly expect to see a significant contingent of people from all over the world. I know that the Americans are quite fond of coming up here for our Pride, but this year I'm really looking forward to meeting a whole lot of people from Europe and from other parts of the world. I have to puff up my chest a little bit that Toronto is doing this. That's a big deal for me.
Does anyone else have an answer to that question that you'd like to share? All right, well, I've got a question for Kristen then. This is another one coming in from one of our followers, from at Titus Androgynous. How will WorldPride accommodate the extra crush of people? Will there be a larger open area for people to gather? This sounds like kind of a city council sort of thing, possibly. And maybe, do we even know how many people are coming or how many we're expecting to come?
This actually might be a question for Kevin and his team in terms of the logistics. The footprint of the festival has gotten larger, we know. The parade has expanded all the way past Yonge Dundas Square now. At one point it sort of turned off on Gerrard. So I think that the footprint of the festival has gotten larger, and it's actually gone beyond the borders of Church-Wellesley. I know that downtown Yonge BIA, another business improvement area, is actively getting involved, hosting the closing ceremonies, as well as the Lower Yorkville BIA. Liberty Village is doing something, as well as Leslieville. So in many ways, the footprint of the festival has really become the city, and so that's a very exciting thing for me to see as a local city councillor, as a representative of Toronto, and for a whole host of reasons. I think that's a very significant move for the city, because it means that the city is now embracing this festival that was once very small. It started off as a small little protest, and now it is a major cultural iconic event. And I would say that it's really right up there with Caravana and Luminato, and at some point in time it will probably overtake those events. With respect to the number of attendees, I think that I've heard estimates up to 2 million people, and that's a lot of people on our city streets. So it's a good thing we've got a very large city that we can accommodate a lot of those folks.
Kevin, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure, thanks, Kristen. First of all, to accommodate extra people, we have been working very hard with the city, and Kristen, I want to thank you and your office for your help, as well as the city staff. The city's been incredibly supportive. The footprint has grown to accommodate more people. The parade grew in length last year to help accommodate more people along the route. And in addition, we have 2,000 volunteers who will be on the ground over the course of the weekend. We hope for up to 2 million people. Of course, we don't actually know how many are going to be here. We know that there are 1.2 million last year and the year before. And I actually would like to explain what that number is, because it comes up a lot. That's not 1.2 million or 2 million people in one place at one time. That's the number of people who come in over the course of the weekend, or this year will be over the course of the 10 days. So it's not like there's going to be a mad crush in one place at one time. That said, the crowds will be bigger, so we've worked with the Toronto Police, with emergency services, with transportation. They've been really helpful. There are big meetings, planning meetings that happen at the city, and our staff are there, and our volunteers are there to ensure public safety and to ensure that everything is going to go smoothly.
So do you have an idea of how many people will be at the parade?
It's quite a lot. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands who show up for the parade. We do quite a detailed survey on the ground. We know there's an overall number last year of 1.2 million. It might be about, it's hundreds of thousands. I'm reluctant to put an exact number on it, but it's certainly hundreds of thousands of people who are at the parade route at that time. And then many others who are still in the at the stages and in the beverage gardens and enjoying other aspects of Pride at the same time.
All right. Well, we have to move along now here. And Phil,
yes.
You coming in with questions from social media?
No. Yes, I'm going over here though.
Oh,
to George Lee. Can you see me over here? Hi, George.
Hi, Phil.
George is in charge of our social media, and he's taking all of your questions out there on the internet. And I think we have a couple right now, right?
We do. We have a lot of questions, and I'm going to mention a couple of them.
Okay.
Brandon Amiot would like to know who will tackle the language barriers.
Who will tackle the language barriers at WorldPride? Does anyone want to comment on that really quick? Language barriers, yeah. Yeah.
I could try to take a stab at it. I was doing an interview with the Globe and Mail, and obviously I don't know if there's going to be official language translation services, but I really do think that Torontonians should be taking pride in their city. And so if we are all good Toronto ambassadors, each of us come from many different places. We speak a number of different languages. I have 2 under my belt. So there's a very good chance that we can step up as Torontonians to celebrate the diversity of the citizenship that already lives here. And if that happens, then there's already some translator always ready to go. And of course, there's probably official language translation capacity, and at the City of Toronto, we will do everything we can to accommodate that when we host the official events.
There are so many languages. We don't have the resources to provide professional translation or interpretation, but what we have done is ensure that the city's 311 service is informed of key things happening throughout the event. So that's in all languages. People can call that for some information. And as I said, we have 2,000 volunteers on the ground. For the first time ever, if they happen to speak another language, that will be reflected on their volunteer identification so that they can provide some basic help anyway to people who just want to help get around.
That's really cool. I love it. Do we have one more quickie one?
Yeah,
George?
Yes, we do. Someone is asking, will there be any representation or more representation for the trans community this year as compared to the last previous prides?
Anyone want to speak to that quickly? More trans representation this year?
Let me start, and then I'll pass it off to TK.
Yeah,
Let me just
do
say
it.
that, of course, trans representation is the trans community, and they are and have always been a part of Pride, and we're incredibly proud of the organizing happening in that community right now. So yes, we have worked very hard to ensure that that there is trans programming included. I'll let TK talk a little bit about that. The Trans March this year is happening on Yonge Street. It's actually the longest of the marches or parades this year, going all the way down to Yonge Dundas Square from Church and Bloor, I believe it is. So I'll pass it on to TK for maybe some information about trans programming.
Sure. So Kevin mentioned, of course, it is the longest Trans Pride March ever. It'll go from our north stage at Church and Isabella up to Bloor Street, over to Yonge and Bloor, and straight down Yonge Street to Yonge Dundas Square. And there we're going to have a huge showcase right after the march. So some of these artists we haven't actually announced yet. So we'll be announcing lots of stuff next week on the 22nd when we have a media event. So you'll hear about a lot of artists that you haven't heard. It's just been the tip of the iceberg, I'm serious. Of course, Trans Space is a big part of our festival, and that's an inclusive space that we have that's located near the North Stage at Church and Isabella. So that's there for support and information and resources, and of course it's all put together by an incredible team of volunteers, our Trans Pride team, who work hard year-round to put this stuff together. Additionally, North Stage does provide 2 full days of non-stop performances from trans and gender-independent performers. So that's taking place. And as well, we have trans representation on all of the other stages. I'm actually very proud to say we have some incredible programs coming up, some incredible performers coming from abroad and coming from all over North America. It's going to be unbelievable what you see this year.
Very exciting. Okay, so we're going to stop with social media for now, but keep writing in, everyone. I think tweet to Daily Extra, and the hashtag is WP2014?
WP14.
Oh, WP14. That's World Pride 14. And it's up on their screens.
Phil,
as you're watching.
Brenda just wanted to add
oh, please. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're thrilled. There's a really significant trans component to the Human Rights Conference from all around the world. One of the most exciting panels for me is the Trans Asia panel, where we have representation from 4 or 5 different Asian countries, from leading trans activists. One of our big plenary speakers, who's going to be at one of the big public plenary sessions, is Tamara Adrian, who is a leading Venezuelan lawyer and LGBT activist, and a leading trans activist on both the local Venezuela level and also on the global level. So we really have a very, I'm thrilled that we have a really significant trans rights component to the conference.
Great. Thanks for that, too. Sorry, I missed your first cue. We have to move on now to, although this is all very fun, we really have to move on to parties because we have some priorities here. So I know that many have been announced, and that's very exciting, and more to come. But TK, can you talk about some of the headliners that have been announced so far and who we should be excited about?
All of them. Hello.
Okay, all of them, yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled. I mean, the opening ceremonies, we have Melissa Etheridge. At the closing ceremonies, it's a nice bookend with Tegan and Sarah. So I'm really looking forward to our Canadian darlings making that, having that performance. So that'll be a lot of fun. Of course, we've already announced Neon Hitch, the original Weather Girl, Martha Wash, Crystal Waters is coming. So we've got our divas. We've got David Morales coming to represent some DJ culture, along with Quentin Harris. Barry Harris is coming to DJ for us. So some folks might know him as one half of the team Thunderpuss 2000, and of course they remixed, I don't know, everybody. So they're coming. Of course, we have a full lineup of DJs happening at OLG Central Stage. We have Pop Goes Pride with Carly Rae Jepsen on Friday the 27th, and there's a lot more being added to that show that I can't tell you about right now. Seriously, it's just been the tip of the iceberg. We're presenting over 30 headliners and support artists of note who are going to be on these stages. That's 46 different showcases, 46 different theme showcases that are put together in approximately 3-hour blocks. 45 of which are going to be free. Did I mention Katie Lang is coming? She's performing at our fundraising gala that's happening on the 25th. I mean, the list goes on. It's such an incredible list. And Shelley Wright. See, there's people I'm not even mentioning. So we have the country superstar Shelley Wright. We have a great selection of artists. Juno Award nominee Amanda Riom. Tim Chasen is coming from the East Coast. The Secrets from Newfoundland. Don Brownrigg, he's this amazing storyteller, and that's just the Gay Ol' Opry showcase. So that's one showcase at one stage on one day. Dave Audet is coming to DJ on Sunday as part of the Dirty Disco lineup. And then there's our recurring programs like Blockorama coming in its 16th year. So that's incredible. Blackness Yes has worked so hard to program that this year. So The Satisfaction are coming to perform there. Diana King is returning again to come and perform there. Crystal Waters will be at that stage as well. Fruit Loops is incredible this year. Black Queer Youth, BQY, will also be doing their showcase. We have a showcase of Indigenous youth. Destination, Brownout, it just goes on. And these are just, staples of our regular festival, and they've all been upping the ante for World Pride. So there's a lot going on.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love how Pride also every year I find does a really good job of showcasing like local DJs too. You're placing local DJs throughout
sure. Yeah.
the
They'll
weekend
be all
too,
through
right?
the festival.
Yeah. That's really great. Okay, Roland, I want to ask you the same question. We'll ask about the hottest parties in a little bit, but I want to know from you, what are you most excited about in general? Party-wise.
Party-wise?
Party monster.
Well, I tend to like it small and intimate, and I tend to like it big and crazy all at the same time.
Oh.
So my evenings really start with the small clubs, the small local clubs, small local DJs, sort of the more alternative scene, and then I transition after 1 in the morning to the bigger parties, courtesy of Prism. So That's what I'm looking forward to.
Great. Those go like all night. Till
And
the
costume
sun.
changes.
Costume changes.
Costume changes.
Sun
yes.
rises.
Yes.
all
You
that
got to
stuff.
plan your outfits out now, guys and girls.
That's very important.
Very important.
I recommend fruit on clothing.
Yes.
It's really making
Green and
a
yellow.
splash
Very
this
well.
summer. Okay, and if we could pass it back down to TK, we're going to go back and forth between you two for just a tiny bit, but we need to
didn't
address...
mention Hercules and Love Affair before. Oh my God, Hercules and Love Affair are coming. It's incredible.
They're really great.
There's a lot.
Okay, well, there's a lot, and there's also a lot of rumors. We need to address the rumors.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people are talking about some acts that haven't been announced. Who could it be? Is there someone left? Is there something left? The names of, I'm just going to say it, Cher and Lady Gaga have both been rumored. They're both in Canada at the time. I have to also say I am in Canada at the time as well, if you do need someone. But are they coming? Can we address this? Can you say anything?
Well, it takes a long time to put a show, a festival like this together. It takes months and months and months of planning. And there's actually, it's a little bit more than just me calling up and being like, hey, Cher, do you think you can come? You know, they have these huge schedules and they have these huge staffs, and they're planning things years in advance. And a good example, actually, there's in this process, and sometimes it can take weeks to put together an offer and negotiate a deal to try and have people come and perform for these festivals, or for this festival in particular. But a good example, actually, is Lady Gaga. I mean, she won't be at WorldPride. However, you can see her at the Air Canada Centre about 10 days afterwards. And it was that show that actually prohibits us from being able to present her, right?
Yeah.
So, because, of course, that's a ticketed event. So things like that. Cher will be performing on the West Coast, and we did explore that option. It's just not physically possible for her to fly in, do our show, and then fly back and still be able to reach her or make her obligations, right? Like and on her tour schedule. So, I mean, that's just some realities of the logistics of trying to plan it all out. Of course, we're very thrilled with the monster lineup that we have. And I think that once you see the whole festival rolled out, that it's really quite representative, and it's an incredible lineup. You've never seen anything like it in this town before, ever.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, guaranteed, ever.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. And I also want to ask you, similar, we asked a little earlier about it, but lineups and more people and that sort of thing. Is there a plan to deal with sort of washrooms and beer lineups and social media overcrowding and that kind of those modern things we have to deal with?
Those modern things.
Yeah.
Well, I can't speak to social media, but I know certainly for our beverage gardens, this year we're offering a line bypass pass, and I mean, Kevin can give you lots of details about some special things like that we have. So there will be a couple of separate gates for people to enter into, so that certainly will relieve some of the lineups. I encourage people to come early for all of our showcases, right? So another thing too is I haven't put out the exact time that some people are coming onto the stage. So I encourage you to come at the beginning of the showcase and get there early and stake out your spot, right? We have more washrooms, so, you know, so there's that. So that's, you know, there's things like that. So we've just kind of beefed up the festival a little bit logistically just to make sure that we can accommodate the number of people. And of course, we've added extra spaces. We have Allen Gardens. I haven't even mentioned that yet. So Allen Gardens is also one of our stages. We'll be programming things in there all week, stuff with a social justice bent, things that are more community specific. You'll see artists who have come from all over the world who will be performing in that space as well. That's a huge green space, and I encourage people to come with you know, a friend and a blanket and just relax and enjoy themselves there. Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to check in with George and social media. What are people saying on Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter, Alien is asking, have you included more all-age events for WorldPride this year?
Well, all of our beverage gardens actually allow for all ages access. So if you want to have alcohol service, of course, you're going to have to present ID that shows that you're 19 plus, but all of our beverage gardens, as always, offer all ages access. And I should say, like, there's only a few beverage gardens. The vast majority of our stages are community stages that are all access at all times, that are barrier free. So folks can come and enjoy programming at Air Canada Village Stage, at North Stage. They can enjoy programming in Alexander Parquet, which is incredible. That's the home of Fruit Loops on the Saturday, on the 28th, and of course of Alternaqueer on the 29th. We have some really exciting stuff happening there. Actually, Allen Gardens won't have any barriers. So really, the whole festival, honestly, is all ages access at all times.
Oh,
on the party circuit for all ages, Buddies is hosting their prom once again. So it's a 21 and under crowd for those people who perhaps didn't attend their own prom, or perhaps didn't think their prom represented them, or they couldn't bring who they wanted to their prom. This is the event for them as well.
And of course, Buddies is hosting events all week long during Pride, and those are often all ages events as well, with theater parties and things like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to actually move on to the next topic for discussion, and this is the search engine optimization special in our town hall. This is when we talk about everyone's favorite topic, Rob Ford. So I guess this is
not my favorite topic.
Well, I guess I don't know who wants to jump in on this question, but are we expecting Rob Ford at Pride this year? Has he even been invited?
Well, I mean, he has said publicly that that he's not coming to Pride. He said that early on, before any invitations were issued. But I've got to say, I mean, I get asked this question an awful lot because, of course, our mayor has become internationally famous. And I get asked the question, but it never dampens the enthusiasm people have for coming to participate in World Pride, because it is the strength of our communities, and we have the full support of our city council, and we continue to enjoy that support and support of other levels of government. So, you know, is he coming? I mean, that's really a question for him. He's already said no. Invitations are going out now generally to elected officials. But, of course, it's an open festival, and if people want to join us, and they know that their participation is in support of and signals support for our communities, then they're welcome to attend our festival.
Well, speaking of other levels of government, this is a major international festival. Are we expecting our Prime Minister to show up? What about, you know, we're in the middle of a provincial election right now in Ontario. We have an openly lesbian premier for the first time right now. We may have a different premier on June 29th. Are we expecting people from those levels of government, and who has responded yet?
Well, I don't know is the answer. I would love to have that answer for you. We don't generally request RSVPs for people who are coming to attend events. Obviously, if they're speakers at an event, that's a different thing. They need to be programmed in. But you can stay tuned, and when I know, you'll know.
Are they welcome? Would Stephen Harper be welcome at Pride?
We generally don't unwelcome people. We just want them to know, and we want to be clear that if you're coming, it is going to be understood, and you have to be comfortable with it being understood as a show of support and engagement with the LGBTQIA2SA communities in Toronto.
That really just rolls off your tongue now, doesn't it?
I can do it backwards, actually.
Oh, go ahead. I want to see this.
A2SQQITTBGL.
Okay, that deserves a round of applause. I think that deserves a round of applause. There we go.
So that's the condition, right? I mean, if you're coming, then we have mission, vision, values as an organization and as a community. And, you know, sometimes people have to break through some barriers to acceptance and to understanding. Pride is often the place where that happens. I've talked to a lot of people who brought their parents to Pride, and it was the first time they saw the community and how welcoming it was and how warm it was, and just, you know, it broke some barriers for people. So if people want to show up and get to know our communities and support them, then Pride welcomes them.
Brenda, do you have anything to add to that? Is there any scope or any need to discuss issues like this, like having, you know, a mayor who has said homophobic, bigoted, racist, sexist remarks in the scope of a human rights conference that you're hosting or co-hosting?
Well, I'm sure that over the course of 3 days of a conference being held in Toronto by people coming from around the world, the word Rob Ford is going to arise. But it's certainly not the focus of any of the panels. What we did is we put out a call for participants, and we put it out through every human rights network we could find, and the ones that our friends knew, and our friends' friends, and our friends' friends. And so what came to us was just incredible activists from around the world. And I think, on the one hand, should we as a city be concerned about the kind of outrageous homophobic remarks made by our mayor? Well, of course we should be. But I think when we all come together to talk about a global human rights movement, we do actually have more important things to talk about.
All right. I do have one more local politics question. Oh, do you want to?
I was going to say, tell it, sister.
Okay. We do have one more local politics question to bring up. This is recently the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association voted that they would march in Pride this year. They'd participate in Pride. This is controversial for a Catholic organization. Certainly some parents of Catholic students have expressed disappointment or anger, and even I believe the Catholic bishops have weighed in on this. And we have a question from Matthew Elliott, who's asking, what would the panel say to parents of Catholic school students about OECTA's participation in World Pride, if a parent expressed that they were upset about this? Who wants to take this question?
I say congratulations. I think you've made a right choice. There are lesbian and gay students across Ontario, across Canada, across the world, and if there is no acceptance for them at their schools, then that's a problem. We want to make sure that all students, regardless of sexual orientation, feel welcome, and they need to be welcomed at home. They need to be loved and nurtured at home, and they need to be loved and nurtured at school, and that is their primary job, is to raise them, to educate them, and to make sure that they show them support. And I think that it would be absolutely wrong if the Catholic School Board took any other position than that. Of course, they're welcome to, but it would be the wrong position. And I know that in my dealings with the chair of the Toronto Catholic District School Board, she has said to me quite clearly, Joanne Davis, is that she actually supports GSAs personally, and she would stand up for the community when the time came. So I would expect that from her.
Can I also just say that it's wonderful to see the teachers and their representatives following the lead of students who have been so courageous and so brave in those schools and said, we want these GSAs and we want to be free to be who we are. This is movement. Every year we see a little bit of movement. It's been led by young people in the schools, and it's terrific to see the OECTA standing behind them that way.
I'd also just add that the Human Rights Conference has a very significant stream of youth and education related panels, youth and education, youth rights. We have folks talking about schools, talking about youth issues, talking about this very question of what happens with religious schools and when these conflict with the rights of LGBT youth. So this is a really big issue for the conference, and we're actually hoping that there are a number of young people who are attending and speaking themselves about their experiences.
Great, thanks. Now back over to me in the corner with George. Hi, George.
Hello, Phil.
So what are some people saying right now? Do we have another quick question?
We do. Julie wants to know, on the subject of washrooms, will gender-neutral public washrooms be made available at Pride?
Who might be able to answer that? Royln?
Well, I'm thinking, when I think of Pride and washrooms, I think of the porta potties. So those are all gender neutral. You can go in, guy, girl, whoever. So it's for me, it's always been gender neutral. And I actually attended the Inside Out Film Festival launch party a couple weeks ago, and all their washrooms were gender neutral. So it's a given. It's going to be gender neutral, definitely.
Right. Is that the general consensus? Everyone nodding? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
The 519 also has gender-neutral facilities available as well. But yeah, Roland's right. All of our temporary facilities, the porta-johns, are all gender-neutral. Yeah.
Cool. I think outside of the porta potties, the City of Toronto is doing everything it can right now to comply with the Ontario Human Rights Commission and their most recent ruling about making sure that gender identity, gender expression are not grounds for discrimination. And so I've most recently met with our chief real estate officers and the real estate staff at the City of Toronto to ensure that, when we're building out new facilities, new bathrooms, new change rooms, whether it's in recreation facilities or pools, is that we are going to be making sure that they are going to be gender neutral moving forward. And that also means that, when we are retrofitting buildings, that they are also going to be looking at that. So that's a whole new model and paradigm of thinking, and that's coming through the city right now, including how we actually deal with forms. So if you happen to be someone who's going to be filling out a form, receiving service from the City of Toronto, at some point in time, that form will not just have two options for gender, there should be a third. And so that's something that we're actively working on in order for us to be that leading city that has demonstrated in the past that we're a global leader in human rights.
Great, that's all fantastic stuff. Before we move back into some arts questions, I need to ask you, Mychol, about your jacket. Because I can't stop staring at it. You need to tell us where this came from, this creation came from.
This is a Michelle Dubarry original. This
legend.
jacket was in her collection for a long time. She and I are quite close and have been close for many years. So there are actually bits of applique which are remnants of dresses that she's made for herself and added to the jacket. She continues to ask me to drop it off so she can add more pieces to it. I'm very proud to wear it. It feels like a historical document. And knowing that we were live and on camera, I thought the jacket was going to work on camera. I hope it's not causing any contrast issues or anything. But yes, it's a Michelle Dubarry original. I'm extremely proud to wear it tonight.
Great. Is Michelle still like the reigning empress? Can we still say that? Is she?
No, she stepped down in October.
Oh, okay.
She was Empress 6 and Empress 26.
Oh, yeah.
So she's now a Dowager Empress.
Oh,
she continues to perform every week. She's, 82 now? And still performs in face every week at a minimum at Cruise Tango for the Toonie Tuesday fundraiser, and often at several other locations around the village every single week. And she still has legs that a 35-year-old woman would die for.
That's true. That's very true. I'm sure she'll be around at Pride. That's a guaranteed somewhere.
She will be around at Pride, and I believe she's actually working, even as we speak, on a very special WorldPride outfit. She makes all of her own stuff still and has done for decades, and is working on something quite special for WorldPride.
Great. That's really cool. Okay, let's move back into some arts. I know I have a running list of my favorite sort of arts things going on across the city. Like we were mentioning, it's not just in the village now, but it's sort of it's really from end to end of the city. So there's some really hot stuff happening. But before we move into arts, Royln, I just want to ask you, what are the hottest parties that people should be paying attention to during Pride? You have a good scope of what's going on from east to west, north to south.
Well, I would say the hottest party, or one of the hottest parties, is Pitbull's party. I'm saying this because Pitbull's parties have notoriously been crazy, off the hook parties, but this year they moved their main party to a different venue, which is the Liberty Grand, which is going to be a much larger space. So they're going to be upping the ante when it comes to that. Also, of course, my favorite party is always a daytime party for Prism. I'm looking forward to that because it's going to be at Young Dundas Square this year. I remember a couple years ago, this type of party was actually the brainchild of another promoter. We won't mention who. And it didn't go so well, but I think having in Young Dundas Square was a great idea. This year they have the budget behind them now. Prism's budget, so they're going to have all these fountains, they're going to have more decorations, they're going to sort of encase the area a little bit more, even though I did like it a couple of years ago when they had like the half fencing around, so people, the straight people, all the families could like watch all the gay people in the foam like they were animals at some zoo. It's like, ooh, what's going on? So that should be really good. Savon is performing, Carmen Carrera is performing, DJ Kitty Glitter from Australia is going to be DJing, so it's going to be really good. And, of course, I'm also looking forward to the smaller parties. Hot Nuts, their parties are kind of crazy. Those are sort of theme parties. People dress up. I'm not sure what the theme is this year. Do you know what the theme is?
No, I don't know the theme is yet.
No. And then, of course, there's also Big Primpin' and Fit. And you know about that one?
I know all about those.
Just about that, yeah.
Most excellent parties.
But there's lots. Yeah. There's so much going on.
It's great. And really like east to west.
East to west.
Right? Like
right,
the whole
exactly.
way across.
Yeah.
It's great.
Wela in the east.
What would be the furthest? Call it Wrong Bar all the way to the
Bar
west.
in the west.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Come all ye fags and lesbians.
Okay, let's pass it back down to TK if we can.
Okay, cool.
All the way down there, because TK, I want to ask about the larger arts things happening that people can be going to during the day and in the evening at OCAD. This thing with Rufus Wainwright with all these men singing. Can you talk about this?
Well, a lot of these come to us via some of our major cultural partnerships, and that's kind of a first for our festival, is being able to have these really fulsome partnerships with the other cultural producers in town. So the Rufus Wainwright show, of course, is with Luminato, and there's some incredible performers. It's not just Rufus. There's also going to be David Byrne is performing at that. The Boy George is there. I mean, that's going to be an amazing show. Of course, the Gardner Museum is doing an exhibit as well, and that's really something to put on your list as well. The ROM will be doing something. The Art Gallery of Ontario is doing something. Actually, what they're doing is incredible because they've also partnered with the Mychol Foundation to actually bring some young queer artists, queer and trans artists from across the country. There's actually going to be some money involved. I mean, this is a project that's actually going to make a difference in young queer artists' lives. So we're really proud of that. I mean, you know, you were speaking about OCAD, that's Generations of Queer. That's an incredible show that's already up and running now, so please go to OCAD and check that out at the gallery. AGO has also done something. They're partnering with the Ryerson Image Center. So there's a show there that's actually, the two of them are connected. So think of it kind of like a person. You can see this one or see this one, but it's really best if you go to see them both, right? So you can get that hug of art. So that's good. And when I looked at the map of things that are happening, I can truly say that we have things happening across the city. It really is a citywide festival. As well, one partnership that I'm particularly proud of is our partnership with Buddies in Bad Times Theatre. And although we've worked with them in the past on Fruit Loops for many years, this is actually a real true partnership between our organizations where we're able to present not only Sarah Schulman's play Lady Hamlet, so there will be a staged reading of that, as well we have Judith the Dong's play Just Me, You, and the Silence. So that will be presented, and then after that play, after that staged presentation, there will be a panel discussion which features Judith the Dong. So she's a Ugandan playwright. She'll be in town for that as well. Binyavanga Wainaina is going to be with her. So he's a superstar activist also from Uganda. And that panel is going to be moderated by Debbie Young. So there's some amazing things coming out of that partnership between Buddies and Pride Toronto to really make this a special year. And the nicest thing, or the best thing, is that all of these are hopefully going to be legacy relationships that we're able to build upon for years to come. So WorldPride is not just going to have an impact for this year, but it's actually going to have our festival grow for many years to come.
Cool. And I know... Oh, go, Kevin, go.
You know, we said earlier there's too much for one person to do. It's also too much for one person to talk about and get it all out. So, I mean, I'm excited about all those things, but also today or this week, TIFF and Inside Out released some details about the film festival, the WorldPride Film Festival, their programming, featuring some really wonderful works by Bruce Jarman, Derek Jarman, Bruce LaBruce. I believe John Cameron Mitchell is coming, and Laverne Cox to be part of that as well. Yeah, that's really quite impressive. In addition, I'm thinking about the Gardner Museum of Ceramic Art. Right now, if you go up University Avenue, you see a big sign that says "Clay is gay," and they have an exhibit of what are they calling it? Queer, camp, Baroque style by 3 Francophone ceramic artists, and I cannot wait to see this exhibit. I've got to tell you, I've seen some images, and it looks really fantastic. Like OCAD U has got Generations of Queer with a range of artists, and there's so much going on that the partners have really stepped up, and we're really proud of that programming.
That's cool.
I don't know if any of your viewers or readers are interested in porn, for example. But just in case maybe they are, we at the University of Toronto Art Gallery has a little exhibit on that is a WorldPride affiliate event called Archiving Public Sex, and it's taken from our sexual representation collection. Yes, we have a porn collection, and it is a really kind of extraordinary exhibit around what it is to try to capture and keep and document public sex.
That's really cool. Can you also speak to the conference in partnership with TIFF? Isn't there some sort of link there, or am I wrong?
The Human Rights Conference? Not that I know of.
No?
But, you know, I don't know everything that's going on, apparently.
There's so much going on. Gay Clay. Gay Clay. And just so we know, too, I know that Xtra is every year releases their Pride Guide, and we work very closely with Pride to put that out. But Pride puts out the guide. So is that the best place for people to find all this information when they do land in Toronto to find out about all this? How are they going to remember all this?
Well, yes and no. There's this thing now that is just new. It's called the Internet. And, of course, the thing about a print guide is that it comes out June 1st, and then it's pretty static. And things do shift and change, and sometimes things are added or moved. So the best thing to do is really to check out our Pride Guide and Extra's Pride Guide, but also Pride Toronto's website where things will be up to date. I want to just add to Brenda's comments about the conference being a strong partner. And they mentioned that these big public plenary sessions with really the keynote speakers that are free to attend for everyone in Toronto, with speakers like the former Prime Minister of Iceland, who is the first out gay head of government in the world, in addition to Frank Mugisha-Mash, I guess. And these are incredibly important parts of the festival as well. And there's the cultural side, the artistic side, but the human rights side is so central to what we're all doing, even when we're out there partying, that I really hope people are going to make time to go to those public plenaries.
Kevin, I just have a follow-up on what you just said about finding information on the Pride website. We've actually had one of our questions that came in. We've had a couple of people say that the World Pride website is actually very difficult to navigate, and it's hard to find the information about what events are actually going on. Is that stuff coming? Is that are we getting a new, like, a calendar of events and things that will be posted there soon? Or
funny you should ask. Yes, there will be changes. I mean, there's a lot of information that's on there right now. There's so much; it's hard to organize it. Everything from the minutes of our meetings to who's on our main stages. So in the next couple of weeks, that will shift, and it will become very focused on the program. There'll be a festival at a glance feature, so you can click on either a date or a style of program and get more information about what you're interested in. And I believe we'll also have a mobile enhanced website, which essentially will be the program on your mobile device.
Well, that's fantastic. Just to let...
add one more thing. As well, you can also, when you go to worldpridetoronto.com, on that main homepage, you'll see there's a little bar with a whole bunch of numbers. That's actually our calendar bar. When you really jumps out because we've kind of outgrown the space for it right now, because we have events that start in May, going all the way to June 30th, actually, on there. So you can click on any one of those dates, and you'll see everything happening in that day, organized by time, start time at this point. But certainly, we do have a mobile enhanced site that's going to be coming soon.
All right, so I just checked in with George on what's trending on social media, what people are talking about, our comments, and there are a lot of comments right now about the discussion that we had earlier about the gender-neutral washrooms. So it sounds like that's a pretty high priority right now, for at least for our readers. So it's good to hear that Pride has plans and is addressing that. So we're going to move on right now to the next topic on our discussion, which is the Human Rights Conference. So I guess, yes, we'll pass the mic back to Brenda. Thank you. Brenda, why don't you start us off? Just tell us what international regions are you focusing on, and why and how did you decide on what topics made it into the Human Rights Conference?
Well, we really let people, for the most part, come to us. So as I say, we had an organizing committee, an advisory committee, very, very broadly based representative committees, and we tried to, when we put out our call for presentations, we used all the networks that we could possibly find to send things around the world. And what's interesting is what came back to us. And so we never decided that we're going to focus on Africa or focus on South America, but what really, we have a tremendous amount of participation from Africa, from Asia, and from South America. We don't have very much from Western Europe, which is interesting. But we just didn't. We have a significant amount from Eastern Europe and Russia. We don't have a lot from, say, the Middle East, but we do have quite a bit from, Eastern and Central Europe, Serbia and Albania and Kazakhstan. And so it was really about what came to us is what's reflected in the program. So
since you mentioned the Middle East, we did have people commenting on this quite a bit. This is a direct quote of a question that we had for Brenda. Who will be chairing, moderating, or facilitating the session on Israel? Is any chair, moderator, or facilitator an anti-Israel activist or QuAIA supporter? And if so, how is this balanced and fair?
Okay, so for starters, there is no panel on Israel. There was a panel that was supposed to be on a comparative analysis between France, the U.S., Canada, and Israel that didn't come to fruition. And there is no panel. There never was a panel on Israel. There isn't a panel on Israel. There's one or two speakers from Israel who will be part of other panels. But I can't even answer the question because there is no panel on Israel. It's just not really one of the topics. We have panels on some particular countries. For the most part, we tried to organize things thematically, but we do have a few countries do leap out, and so there are panels on Eastern Europe and Russia. There's panels on Uganda, but for the most part, the panels are organized thematically: youth and education, employment, two-spirited, sex work, trans issues. Not country focused.
All right. Well, speaking of Uganda, we did get one anonymous direct message that came in. Someone who says that it was very difficult for Ugandan speakers at the conference to get visas. Was this something that you actually encountered organizing the conference?
Yes. So we have been working quite carefully and quite closely with the government for about a year now to try to make sure that visas are facilitated, that the government knows what the conference is, and we worked very carefully with them in terms of getting out letters of invitation and working through CIC, Citizenship and Immigration Canada. And for the most part, visas have been working very smoothly, with the exception of Uganda, where visas are not working smoothly. We were cautiously optimistic that this is going to be worked out. I think the caution is getting higher and the optimism is getting a little lower. I'd say we're getting increasingly concerned about folks from Uganda.
Do you have any idea why the government has been so reticent to let people from Uganda in?
No. We don't have any. We just get the participants who have been applying just get a basic form letter. That simply rejects them on a whole range of basis, but it's really just a form letter about purpose of travel and whether there's sufficient funds. It's just a basic form letter. But there does seem to be a bit of there's been enough rejections that there seems to be a bit of a pattern here. And we're not having that problem for other folks, including from a whole range of other African countries.
All right, well, this looks like a topic that Xtra may have to delve more into. But let's move on for now. We do have another big world issue that is a perennial topic of discussion at Pride. I think some of you know what I'm talking about. We've alluded already to the Israel-Palestine situation. And this is an annual topic that comes up, the Queers Against Israeli Apartheid, and it's been moved on. Yes. So I guess this is for Kristen and Kevin. What is the situation? Are they marching? Are they allowed to march? What's the political backdrop right now? There's been, just so some background for some of our readers who might not be aware or who might be tuning in from outside of Toronto, Queers Against Israeli Apartheid is a political group that has been a bit controversial in the city. Certain city councillors have attempted to block them from participating in Pride, accused them of hate speech against Israel, against Jewish people, and city council has since, or rather the city solicitor has ruled that what they do is not hate speech, and city council has continued to support Pride in the meantime. But are we facing another challenge this year?
I'll let you speak to the challenge maybe, and I'll just give a little bit of background. We will announce the list of registrants for the parade on or about June 1st. The registration is closed, and we need to go through the list and prepare it before it gets announced. So I can't say whether or not QuAIA is marching, but they are welcome to. There has been a long discussion about this with some very hard feelings on all sides of the issue, of course. Sometimes we have groups march in the parade that disagree with each other, that have conflicting opinions or interests. Pride Toronto doesn't necessarily endorse any of the opinions or positions of the participants in the parade. We couldn't. Some of them conflict, right? So what we do is we provide a parade, we provide a march, and we provide an opportunity for people to express themselves, and we encourage them to express their sexuality and their culture, and they'll do what they do. Now, there has been quite an extensive process with regards to Queers Against Israeli Apartheid because there was a complaint registered in 2012, and all sides were given an opportunity to be heard and to make their case, and at the end of that process, some arm's length adjudicators determined that they in fact do not violate any of Pride's policies or the city's policies or laws, and therefore there was no grounds to ban them from the parade. So if they register, they will be welcome to march, unless, of course, they violate any of the policies and any of the laws. We do work with groups to make sure that when they participate in Pride, whether that's the parade or any aspect of it, they're made to feel as comfortable and welcome as they can. So when there are conflicting groups or opinions, we work very carefully to make sure that everyone is made to feel welcome and safe, and that they're not at risk or there's no threat involved. So I guess that's a bit of background. We don't know yet. We haven't released the list of participants, but it is an issue that comes up. My sense is that people, while many still hold these beliefs very dearly, people really want to participate in this parade, people from all communities and all cultures. That's really grown. The enthusiasm has grown over the past little while, and people are looking forward to a wonderful, positive event where they can speak about their issues and express themselves, their communities, and their sexuality.
Kristen, anything to add?
I think Kevin has pretty much said it all. I actually have not heard anything.
You haven't heard anything from other city councillors who have in the past had an issue with this?
No.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about that? So you were saying that you don't endorse the people that are marching in Pride, but yet at the same time you're also saying that if a politician was to march in the parade, they would have to accept and basically endorse what Pride is about, what that parade is about. So what are they endorsing? What are they supporting? If you're not endorsing the people that are marching in the parade.
Right. We don't endorse them, and actually, there's a good example. There will be political candidates, no doubt, marching in the parade this year, and they're all welcome to march, and we don't necessarily endorse any of their candidacies. We don't actually endorse any of their candidacies, but it works the other way around. By marching in the parade, you as a group are signaling support and endorsing, if you want to put it that way, our communities and the people who the people who've built Pride over the years and the communities that it serves.
I guess there is one more local issue that has come up quite a bit recently, and if we're also search engine optimizationing here, hashtag nudity at Pride. We've had Toronto school board trustees complaining about the nudity at Pride. We've had a certain city councillor who's come down to the Dyke March to videotape participants. It was not Kristen. It was not Kristen. Just let's make that clear. Is this something that we're concerned about going into Pride, that nudity is an issue, or is it status quo? Do we are we worried about challenges from politicians about nudity?
I guess I'll start this, and I don't know, Kristen, if you want to weigh in on it. I was impressed with the overwhelming amount of support for our communities that came out during that debate. I really was. I was even surprised to an extent by the extent of it. Pride, again, registers groups and requires that they adhere to policies and to the laws. We don't interpret laws for people, and I know there are varying interpretations of those laws. We also don't enforce the law as an organization. So people, if they want to participate, will come and participate and express themselves and their sexuality as they see fit. That said, of course, an awful lot of attention in the media gets drawn to this when it's really not, if you just watched some media outlets, you'd swear that's all that's happening at Pride. What's really happening at Pride is 1.2 million people over the course of 3 days, families coming, 6,000 children and their families coming through our family Pride. They come year after year because they feel welcome, because they feel supported, because they want to show support. That's what's happening at Pride.
But all the repressed homophobes want to see pictures of the nude guys at Pride, right? Like, isn't that what it is? Isn't that what it's about?
Perhaps. I'll leave the interpretation
All
to
right.
you.
Well, we have a question actually for Brenda that's come in from social media. This is just a question of clarification about the visas issue for Ugandan speakers at the conference. Some of the people on social media want to know, is this the government of Canada who's denying entry visas, or the government of Uganda who's denying exit visas for these people?
This is the government of Canada denying entry visas.
All right. Well, that is certainly worrisome right now. So I guess we'll check in with. Is there anything else coming up on social media right now? Oh, yes. So people want to know more about what's going on in Allen Gardens. You mentioned that that's going to be a new venue this year. That's actually really exciting.
It sure is. Well, we actually started using it a couple of years ago with the Dyke March team. So they were doing the rallies there and stuff. And, of course, the Dyke March is going to be stepping off from Allen Gardens again this year. But you can actually look for a full, well, not quite 10 days of programming. I think it's nine days of programming in that space. And, again, we've partnered with folks. So you'll see events from Woofstock. That's one of them. I'm that's another one where there's a really long laundry list. There's going to be sort of a food truck festival that's happening on the Saturday, the 21st. As we come into the week, we'll have programming there from Manifesto, who are going to be producing Minifesto on Thursday. That's the 26th. And then, of course, we're into our own programming from the 27th through the 29th. So in that space, you're going to see some artists who are coming from England in the form of Aja UK, which is a really interesting and unique band that's coming over. Normally they would have a chance to do some workshops and things. They're coming to do a performance with us. This will be their first year coming to the festival, so we'll hope to have them back where they can do something a little bit more fulsome. But as well, Franco Queer is going to be doing their annual showcase of all French language programming that's happening Saturday night. I've already mentioned Dyke March. In the morning we'll have some yoga and some other health and wellness activities that's happening before the Dyke March. And then Sunday we'll have some programming. It's Friday night. You'll see some performances from Indigenous youth. I mean, there's a lot that's going on there. Things with a social justice edge. You'll see some of the church groups in that neighborhood coming in to do some concerts. There's a lot. And then, of course, just, being in that space, and it's beautiful. And Kevin? Yeah.
There's another story happening there that I'm glad you've raised this, because I was surprised to learn, and sometimes I'm wrong, but I've been led to believe by many that the faith communities, the LGBT faith communities in Toronto, have never worked on an event together like the interfaith service that they're planning on having. And I think that is a fantastic story, particularly for WorldPride, that faiths from across the religious spectrum are cooperating and collaborating on an interfaith service and events over the course of WorldPride and at Allen Gardens. And I think it's called One Song, Many Notes. I hope I've got the name correct, but I hope that people of faith who are looking for something to attend consider that as well.
All right, I think Royln wanted to add something.
I just have a follow-up question about the Allen Gardens. Is it a fenced-off area? Okay, good. So you can just walk in there. That's amazing, because I know a lot of people can't stand waiting in those lines. Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is how do we make the gains that we make at WorldPride stick? And we've got a first question, I believe, is coming in for Mychol. So if we can pass on pass the baton down. Mychol, there's a lot of interest right now in a lot of the changes that are happening in the Church-Wellesley neighborhood. Some of the beautification projects going on. We have the Church Street mural project, which is ongoing. A lot of people don't realize that it's actually not finished yet. There's still two or three murals left to be two murals left to be installed, one to be finished. There's all sorts of stuff going on in the neighborhood. Can you speak? Rainbow crosswalks. Can you speak to some of the beautification initiatives that are getting the neighborhood ready for Pride?
The one that's sort of on my desk at the moment is the mural that's going up on the north wall of the 519 Church Street Community Center. It's a photorealistic mural based on the images that I've been presented with, and that's quite an exciting piece of work. It's a slightly different presentation than we've seen in some of the other mural projects that have happened. The Church-Wellesley Village BIA has been acting as an agent to facilitate the management of the funds that have gone into that mural project, and so we do get to see all of that work as it's in progress. The new mural on the 519 Church Street Community Center will be up by the end of May?
Yes, hopefully.
Ish? By the end of May-ish? Weather dependent, obviously, but I've seen the scissor truck is in, and so that means that they've been out shopping for their paint. So that is actually in progress, and we should see something very soon with the transformation of that north wall.
Oh, that's fantastic. Actually, for our viewers who are in Toronto right now, you can pick up today's issue of Xtra. Just hit the stands, and it has an oral history of the 519 written by yours truly, or compiled, I guess, by yours truly. And it actually has a whole bunch of pictures of murals that have been painted on the 519 going back to the 1970s when it was first established as the 519. So you can see a bit of a history there. And Kristen, I think you wanted to add some.
I was just going to say that we actually have have 2.5 pieces left to go. So one is the John Cunha piece, and in collaboration with Cristiano de Aruja, which is going to be on the north wall of the 519. And it is this in the style of photorealism. It is also a mural that sort of lays out the history of the lesbian and gay movement. And what we did was we actually brought together a number of pioneers, folks who actually were really active in the sexual liberation movement. We introduced them to the young artists, and they told them the stories of, being in the bathhouse raids when the police were breaking down the doors. They also expressed, what they felt when they were chaining themselves to the Ontario Legislative Assembly, with respect to the equality marriage battles there. And those young artists took those stories and then gave them visual representation. And so that's what you now see that's been unfolding in the village for the past year now. And there is one more very special installation that is sort of a sister project to the Church-Wellesley mural project, and that's going to be on the side south elevation of the Steamworks building, which is our big awesome bathhouse, and that's going to be at the corner of Church and Maitland. And that project is a three-dimensional relief art installation that is literally going to be comprised of 105 rainbow colors. It's going to be spectacular, and that's a permanent piece of art installation, which will probably be, to me, I think, one of the largest representations of, physically, one of the largest representations of gay art in Canada as I know it.
I just should mention, again, there's so much you can't just call it all to mind, but Cawthra Square Park itself and the renovation is something that will last for a very long time. That was much needed improvement. It's going to be done just in time for the world to come and see it for WorldPride.
And there's actually a few more things. So we are also, and it's also because it's important, because one of the things we wanted to do is brand the city. We wanted everyone to know that WorldPride was coming. So there's hundreds of banners with the WorldPride logo announcing that the city is hosting this. That's going to be like unfurled right across the city in iconic destinations. There'll be a welcoming committee as you sort of disembark from the airport. This will be all part of the narrative that we know as WorldPride. There will not be too many people living in Toronto that doesn't know that this event is happening, whether it's the rainbow intersections that will be placed right at the corners of Church and Wellesley, and then Wellesley and Yonge Street. And I've been lobbying really hard, and it's no secret anymore, but I've been lobbying really hard to have the bike lanes on Wellesley to be painted in some type of rainbow fashion. Then we would have the world's gayest bike lanes. And that's something that, we've gotten some resistance on because it's not the city standard, but if Stephen Buckley, General Manager of Transportation, is listening, we still want them.
So everybody, Stephen Buckley's phone number is, you can Google it and find it on the city website and harass him until he agrees with Councillor Wong Tam.
No pressure.
We actually did get a question about cycling in the city, and I don't know if you want to field this one, but this comes from @AChorusQueen. Toronto is booming with cyclists. How can our cyclists and how will Bike Share Toronto prepare for the busy month of June and the parade weekend? Are you going to be able to get around in our brand new bike lanes on Wellesley?
I can say that for the first time ever, we're going to have valet bike parking at Yonge Dundas Square. I think it's on the Sunday that's being in partnership with Cycle Toronto and the Downtown Yonge BIA and Yonge Dundas Square. Yes, people should be riding their bikes. Anyone who's been to Pride knows that you want to be on a bike or public transit, but a bike is a great way to get around.
All right. I actually didn't expect that there would be an answer for that question.
So, we've been planning for 5 years,
There we go. You have thought of everything, absolutely everything. Okay, so I guess we've talked a lot about what's going to be lasting in the Church-Wellesley neighborhood, but what are the gains that we're hoping to make as a movement, as an LGBTQ2SI? Did I say the right number of T's?
I think.
And asterisk. I can't do it backward. I'm sorry. No. What are the gains that we're hoping to make as a movement? Are we aiming for worldwide change with WorldPride?
I'm going to say yes, and I hope everyone on the panel has an opinion about that. Of course, for me, and I suspect Brenda will have a similar idea. I mean, the dialogue that's going to happen itself is going to be an incredible legacy. Just today, actually, we announced at Pride Toronto that our International Grand Marshal for 2014 is Anna Rekviashli, I believe it might be pronounced, from Georgia in Eurasia, which is in the sphere of Russia, and is currently facing the passage of a law like the Russian so-called propaganda law against non-traditional sexual relations. Last year, for the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, Anna and her colleagues organized an event that was met with violent resistance by a number of Orthodox priests and thousands of counter-protesters, and around 17 people were injured, including police officers. And this is a story that gets told again and again there. So the fact that people who are in hostile environments, and you know, there's no region is free from homophobia and transphobia, but people who are in particularly intensely hostile regions coming together to tell us their story, to teach us, we need to learn from them, and we can share with them and teach them as well. That's going to be a lasting legacy of WorldPride, and I think WorldPride itself. You know, this is the fourth one. I want the legacy to be that this is where it really happened. This is the one that people are going to remember where, yeah, it made sense, it came together, it worked, and we handed off to Madrid as an event that continues over the years, over the decades, to make change wherever it goes.
So one of the things that I'm most excited about in terms of the Human Rights Conference is to be able to talk about how to build a global human rights movement. And what does it actually mean to build a global human rights movement? How do we actually go about supporting the struggles of folks in other places? You know, we hear about what's happening in Uganda and we can hear about what's happening in Russia, but it's never really very obvious about what we can actually do to support the struggles of the activists on the ground. And for me, one of the things that's so exciting, such an exciting opportunity at this conference, is to actually talk to those activists and to find out questions about to boycott or not to boycott. What are your views on this? How do we do this? How do we actually go about supporting your movement and your rights in a way that doesn't actually set your movement backwards in Russia or Uganda? And so having all of these folks from around the world in the same set of rooms and being able to talk about the challenges, the dilemmas, the hopes of being able to move forward and build a movement where we actually can support each other's struggles. And so this is, for me, a really exciting piece of it that I hope everyone who comes to the conference will then take away from it. On a more practical level, we're also working with Tourism Toronto around creating legacy pieces. We're trying to create some legacy videos that will capture some of the highlights and be able to keep those on, you know, this thing called the internet.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, we're nearing the end of our WorldPride Town Hall, so we're going to check in with George again and social media, see what people are talking about online. George, what kind of questions do we have for our panelists?
Yeah, the issue of Uganda is really trending, and some of our followers are saying that they don't even know about it. So Jackie's asking, can visas that were denied be overturned if you put pressure on the government?
We are still working with Citizenship and Immigration Canada on the Uganda issue and on the Ugandan visas. And we are still, as I say, cautiously optimistic that this is going to be worked out. But it is challenging.
All right. What else are people saying?
There's just one last, a couple of our followers asked. So they don't live in Toronto. They live in Etobicoke, Mississauga. So what can WorldPride offer them?
One of our goals with WorldPride was to make sure that as much as we love the village and everybody's going to gather in the Church-Wellesley, you know, Yonge and Dundas area for the final weekend and the parade and the marches, that the programming was extended across the city. So there are some partnerships in place, for instance, with the Toronto Public Library, which is going to be hosting programming in over 20 of its branches for the first time, going into those neighborhoods. We're still open to partnerships, of course, with sometimes it's business owners, and I know Mychol can speak to the fact that it's often the bar owners or the restaurant owners or the coffee shop owners who have these places where people can gather in neighborhoods and build community where they live, as well as in the downtown. You know, I hope that there'll be a lot of that going on. There are partnerships, again, around the city and across the city. When I look at our map, which would come out in the Pride Guide, you know, we've got little flags at events happening, and they're all through the city.
I can actually speak to that a little bit as well. Just wanted to comment. I'm fairly new at this job. I came into the Church-Wellesley Village BIA general manager's role at the beginning of April, and I had the good fortune to be able to attend the Toronto Association of BIA's annual general meeting very, very recently, and was quite gratified by the number of BIA representatives who approached me, asked me about WorldPride, asked me about ways in which they could get a message to their business owner members about ways that they could leverage their involvement and show some solidarity with the core values of the WorldPride activities. I can't speak to whether they actually contacted WorldPride or not about being involved, but I was able to provide them with a little bit of information about what we're doing in the village and how some of that stuff can actually be translated and interpreted to local BIAs. Bloor, Yorkville, of course, very, very friendly BIA to Church-Wellesley, and there are a number of other BIAs. Some of them kind of caught me by surprise that they're a little further out from the core, and yet they remained very interested in what was going on with WorldPride, with Pride generally, but specifically with WorldPride this year. So that was a very gratifying experience.
I think both of us can. How exciting. I mean, and don't forget about our street fair and community fair, which is also expanded a few blocks further north this year. And you'll find that there's so many organizations and businesses that are going to be participating who are from the outlying areas or suburban areas around. I mean, you'll be able to check in and find out about things that are going to be happening. So like Pride Week in Peel, I know that they'll be well represented at this street fair. So you'll be able to find out about things that are actually happening in your areas outside of the downtown core at this festival. So if you do come down, you'll be able to check out what you can look forward to later on in the summer in those spots.
I also think that from the City of Toronto's perspective, what we were seeing is with respect to application for grant money, cultural grant monies, we were starting to see organizations outside of the downtown core, especially neighborhood-based arts organizations that had applied for money, they were granted those funds, organizing special neighborhood area-specific, regional-specific events. And so we know that the power and the strength of WorldPride is definitely leaving the downtown core. Obviously, it's going to be festival central, but a lot of the organizing, from what I can tell, is starting to move into areas well beyond the downtown perimeter. And you know, one of the areas that is not downtown but is going to host a very significant event is Casa Loma. And it is, you know, Canada's one of the few North American castles built in 1914, elected to be finished. And they're hosting, hopefully, what will be the world's largest Pride wedding. And we have over 130 couples that have now expressed interest in coming to Toronto and being married here. And we have couples as far as Macedonia, Serbia, Ghana, Guyana, Brazil, Mexico, China, and the Philippines, and of course, you know, across the America and in Canada. And so that is also happening on top of everything else. So we could end up having a legacy where we set a new world record on the largest, you know, most elegant, grand Pride gay wedding.
Okay, we got one final question, and this one, I guess, is it's for Royln. Yeah, you're going to take us home. So
I'll take you home, maybe.
So we've had a lot of comments on our stories at dailyxtra.com. I don't know if it's been coming up in the social media tonight, but certainly we've had some concern from people in the community that the community as a whole and parties at Pride are really only designed for gay white men. Do you feel that you've been writing about prides and parties for years and years and years in this city? Do you feel that the party scene at Pride is welcoming to all?
Well, as a gay white man myself, no. I believe that there are parties for everyone, and Toronto is one of the most inclusive cities, gay and straight, in the world. I mean, I've gone to other cities and other gay meccas in other cities where it's very, you know, divisive. Toronto is not like that, but there are parties out there that, you know, if you're a part of the Asian community, there are monthly Asian parties. If you're a black man, there are black parties. But that's not what Toronto's about. It's a very inclusive environment, and there's mixture all over. So if you're looking for a party that suits you, it's out there. There's no division unless you want there to be division. And even when there is division, there's still that mixing, that merging, that sort of, you know, that flow, that ebb and flow that happens.
So everyone should feel comfortable going to every party that's going on during Pride. There are no barriers. There's no color barriers in this city.
Not at all. Like DJ Black Cat's parties are primarily black men and lesbians, but there's white people there. Asian Express has their monthly parties, which is geared to the Asian community, but there are tons of white people there. There's tons of black people there. There's tons of Middle Eastern people there. If you go, like people, I know what people are talking about. They're talking about places like maybe Fly or the major gay parties for Pride, which is Prism. Yes, their marketing is a bit, standard in terms of, we're just going to show a hot white guy there on our posters, but that, unfortunately, they know what sells. They know what draws the majority out there, but that's not the only person. That's not the only people that go to these parties. So there's mixtures everywhere.
So even those parties you say are mixed.
Yeah, exactly. I go to them all. Yeah.
Kristen,
you can answer this. Wow.
I also am not a gay white man, but I can say that, with respect to the city of Toronto, what we see here is oftentimes social integration. And I think that, when I evaluate, a fabric of a city and how successful a city is, it's oftentimes of how we accept diverse communities. And Pride itself has one of the most diverse festival footprints, not just in terms of programming and cultural or with respect to parties, but just in terms of who shows up. You literally see people of all ages, all shapes, and all sizes. And I cannot say the same of all our festivals. That's, I'll be very honest. But when it comes to Pride, everyone is here, and everyone belongs here. And I've never once felt uncomfortable at a party at Pride. And I've gone to a number of them myself, not to date myself, but I've done it.
All right, so we're just going to wrap it up here. I'd like to give everyone a chance to say one final word, a very, very brief final word. We're going to give you 30 seconds, everybody, and the bell will be going. We'll be timing you. We'll go down the line, and if you have anything else you'd like to add, anything you'd like to share about World Pride, Mychol, start us off.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't talk about the fact that the BIA is actually hosting the pre-Pride weekend from June 20th to the 22nd. We are particularly excited by the fact that we overlap with the Nui Rose project, which is going to bring some extremely interesting art projects into the neighborhood at the same time as we're hosting a street closure and patio extensions. So there will be an opportunity to have a cocktail on the sidewalk and listen to a 30-piece Counterpoint Community Orchestra doing show tunes in the middle of the new Cawthra Park. I'm particularly excited about that, but we are looking forward to inviting the city to come and party with us in a more low-key way the weekend before Pride. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
There's really so much that we couldn't even cover it, even in the time that we've had allotted here. So, I mean, there's so much to look forward to and so much we didn't get a chance to touch on. We're looking forward to presenting one of the most accessible, diverse, and incredible festivals that this city and probably this country have ever seen. With amazing artists, and I encourage everyone to look for the announcements that are coming out on the morning of the 22nd of May, where we'll be doing our media event at Tiff Bell Lightbox, so certainly you're going to get the full list of headliners, and I know everyone's really curious about what that's happening, what's going on with that, and we'll have some really amazing stuff that's coming up, and the partnerships that we've put together have been unbelievable and groundbreaking, and I think I better leave off there, because I just would keep going.
That's great. The City of Toronto is doing something very different this year, and it's actually a very neat little project. We're branding condoms. We're actually putting the City of Toronto logo with WorldPride colors all over condoms, and we'll be distributing them all over the city. So enjoy the parties. Definitely come and visit Toronto and pick up some condoms and use them.
I said we've been planning for this for 5 years, but really our communities have been putting this together for the past 40-plus years. It's been an incredible effort on the part of people who came long before me, and we have me and TK and a staff and a board of directors and 2,000 volunteers who believe passionately in this event, in Toronto as a host of this event, and want it to be a wonderful celebration, a great party, but always with our communities and our human rights at the core of what we do, whether we're in a session at the Human Rights Conference or we're dancing when maybe we were told once we weren't supposed to. That's what this is all about. This is a global movement. Toronto is going to be the nexus and the host for that this year, and I hope you're going to join us and have a great time.
You can dance if you want to.
You can dance if you want to.
At the WorldPride Human Rights Conference, every day, it goes for 3 days, but every day we have a big public plenary session from 4 to 6 every day. It has some just extraordinary LGBT global leaders. So we encourage you to come out and just come to one of the sessions from 4 to 6 every day. You can find particular information on our website, but it's a great opportunity to just come and hear some truly extraordinary stories of global LGBT leaders.
World Pride, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what parties you're going to get. Unless you do some planning ahead of time. So I suggest, not just for the parties, but I'm about the parties, but take some time, plan out your agenda ahead of time, know where you're going. It's a big city. The parties are going to be spread out all across the city, so know where you're going. Also, get some rest. No one wants to see a tired guy or girl trying to hit on them at a club. It's not pretty. That's it.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our panelists for joining us today and for all of the tremendous work that you guys are putting into organizing World Pride this year. Thank you so much for sticking with us and watching our town hall. If you'd like to hear more about World Pride, keep tuning in to dailyxtra.com. We'll be reporting all the news and all the exciting events and photos from World Pride leading up to World Pride, during World Pride. We'll be your go-to source for that. So keep tuning in to dailyxtra.com. You can pick up Extra on the streets. Our new issue is out today. And thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great night.
dailyxtra.com. Everything news.
Some people are uncomfortable with the word gay.
Everything life.
I consider my life to be a lot of drag.
Everything travel.
Museums and galleries, some of the best in the world.
Christiania is a hippie city in the city of Copenhagen.
Everything events.
It's a bit of a shindig for puffs, dykes, anybody who wants to come along and join us.
Everything gay, every day. dailyxtra.com.